Hello, everyone, from Glasgow. So my name is Professor Eva Moreda Rodriguez, and I am currently the head of music. And I also convene the MMus in Musicology, which is one of the programs that is part of the Q&A today. So I am going to introduce my colleagues. So we have Callum Knight, who is a current student in sound design and audiovisual practice. Hi, Callum.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
We have Dr. Iain Findlay-Walsh, convener of the MSc Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media.
Hello.
And Professor Matt Brennan, convener of the MC Music Industries.
Hiya.
So you should be able to write down your questions in the chat, so feel free to kind of start writing away. But while you maybe think about we have someone joining from Boston. Hello, Boston. But while you kind of maybe think up of some questions, we will each do a very short introduction to our programs. It's not the kind of long version, which is already on YouTube if you want to refer to that, but just like a couple of minutes talking about like general kind of content, courses, and so on. So Iain, would you like to start with your course?
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm here to talk about the MSc in Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media. This is a newly amended version of a course which we've run up until this year called Sound Design and Audiovisual Practice. So just some kind of minor changes to courses and title there. But Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media. And this program is kind of there to provide advanced training in creative practice with sonic and audiovisual technologies. It offers topics and activities relevant to practicing musicians, to sound designers, digital artists, people working within the creative industries with a broad range of interests in sound and AV. We usually have people from quite a broad range of disciplinary backgrounds on the course. So some are musicians and composers, some come from theatre or film or fine arts backgrounds, some have an existing track record in this area, and some are really kind of starting out or moving into it as a new area of interest. On the course, you take practical and research-informed courses on sound shaping and design, audiovisual composition, creative sound recording, sound and media performance, sound and media aesthetics. And these courses focus on practical work and engagement with specific technologies, but they also leave space for you to kind of develop your own ideas through the assignments supported by the staff. Yeah, not much more to say, really. The course is kind of taught by myself and my colleagues, Professor Nick Fells and Professor Louise Harris. Nick Fells is an electroacoustic composer, musician, researcher, specialist in practice research, and Louise Harris is an audiovisual composer, researcher, and is currently managing editor of Computer Music Journal. My own kind of interests are in environmental sound recording or field recording, in spatiality, in sound and in record production, and in critical listening practices. So that gives you a sense of the kind of spread of interests there. And yeah, we enjoy teaching it, and it's a fun course.
Okay, Matt, would you like to talk about your course?
Yeah, sure thing. So hi folks, my name is Matt Brennan and I convene the MSc in Music Industries. So our degree really tries to provide an opportunity to explore the music industries with a focus on popular music from a range of different perspectives. And those might include history, research methods, contemporary debates, and the place of music within cities and urban planning. And with that last focus, it's really designed to make the city of Glasgow and the whole music ecosystem that operates within the city to really make the most of our situation in this kind of world-renowned music city of Glasgow. It's got a wonderful mix of venues, festivals, small to medium music businesses, and lots of artists, of course, making music of all different genres. Our degree is probably distinctive in that way for really emphasizing our understanding of the music industries through the lens of music cities and thinking about Glasgow's identity as a UNESCO city of music and how it operates in relation to other global music cities. And through that, we've kind of designed courses you'll be taking, including an introduction to the global music industries. So thinking about how they operate, maybe historically from an Anglo-American perspective, but have in the 21st century really branched out to centers of power and difference in many different countries throughout the global north and south. We've got a course on music cities, which is addressing all those issues, in particular points of focus that I was mentioning just earlier. You can take an elective course in your first semester. We offer a recommended elective of popular music politics, but there are other courses that are on offer as well if you want to try something different within the College of Arts and Humanities here. In the second semester, you'll be taking a course called Popular Music Research, another course called Popular Music History, and then a second elective choice. And then in the summer, you'll move on to do a dissertation, which is a significant piece of independent research, but you'll be supervised, of course, by the staff who teach on the degree. And speaking of that, there are two people who teach on the degree primarily. One is myself, and the other is my colleague, John Williamson. John is an amazing entrepreneur and has a long history of working in just about every part of the music sector that you can count, really. He's been a music journalist, writing for a range of different papers, ran a venue, concert promoter. He has been chair for a long time of the Scottish Album of the Year Award, has recently stepped down from that post, but was the longest running chair of that award. Was an artist manager of several significant Scottish bands, including Biss and Bell and Sebastian. So he has just a huge breadth of industry experience. Myself, I'm a historian of popular music. I do work on music and society, cultural policy, but I'm also a musician and have put out a number of albums with various different musical projects over the years. And yeah, that's the two of us, really. So we very much welcome you if you choose to come in September to join us on the degree.
Hi, so finally, I now convene the MMus Musicology. So obviously, this is a program that focuses on musicology, which is the discipline. So it was born as the discipline that includes the historical, critical, analytical, contextual study of music. So as a discipline, it kind of goes back actually more than 100 years. And as you can imagine, this means that it kind of has changed quite a lot throughout its history. So what we do in the course is, what we do in the master's is try to offer an overview, as extensive as possible as an overview of the discipline in its present status. So something that tends to be quite unique to postgraduate study is that it might not only be about like learning more about music, learning more about pieces or about repertoires, but it's also about interrogating like more critically, how do we acquire knowledge about those things, or how do we, from which points of view, which positionalities do we engage in studying these things? What are advantages, disadvantages, implications? How does, I don't know, music study engage with other disciplines, or how can musicology engage with other parts of music study? So these kind of more epistemological questions are going to be at the forefront of a lot of what we do. So you might be engaging with kind of quite traditional approaches to musicology, such as editions or the study of notation, but we are also very much attuned to like a range of the latest methodologies, approaches. For example, global musicology, which is about like what happens if we stop kind of decentering Europe or decentering the West in the study of music, and we try to account for the multiplicity of musical expressions that populate our planet. Or we do a lot of performance studies. So what happens if we kind of forget, let's say, about the composer and their works, and we try to center performance? So how can we study performance from that point of view? We also do digital musicology, so the application of digital tools to the study of music. And we do like other things as well. So the program consists of 3 core courses, and then something quite unique about this program is that there are 3 other courses that you take outside the musicology program. So you can take some of the courses in the other 2 music programs that Iain and Matt have described. So you can take some of those courses. Then there are other courses that are part of the School of Cultural and Creative Arts, which is the kind of broader structure we are part of. So there are a course called Festivals. Genders is another really popular course. There might be other options in theater studies, in film studies. There are options outside the school as well. You can even take some of the honors options in music. So there is really an opportunity to craft your curriculum to a great extent. And I mean, I've seen many of our students kind of taking that very seriously and kind of branching out to things they were really interested in, like in the music industries or maybe theater kind of approaches, theatrical approaches to performance and so on. As is the case with the music industries masters, and in fact, I would say kind of most of our programs, at the end of the year, you write a dissertation, which in a way is your opportunity to explore a topic of your choice, applying everything or at least some things from what you've learned, like some methodologies, some approaches, some of the thinking that you will have developed, and so on. So I think we have a few questions already in the chat, so keep sending them. And we have a question from Hiten from India, and this would be a question for Matt, as it's music industries. Is there an opportunity as a student of music industries to get involved in music festivals and concerts happening in Glasgow?
So the short answer is yes, not formally as part of your coursework, but because Glasgow, what I often say about Glasgow is that it's a big enough city that no matter what type of music you're interested in, you'll always find that you're not alone in being active in that particular type of music, be it like noise rock or traditional music or contemporary classical or folk or indie rock or whatever it happens to be. There are many little communities of activity, and it's a big enough city that kind of contains that breadth of activity and all of these multiple communities, but it's small enough that if you spend some time here, you'll get to know most of the people involved in the scene. So having said that, I can see that our representative student here is nodding a bit, so maybe he can speak to that from personal experience a little.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Yeah,
Sure.
So like in terms of music festivals, concerts happening in Glasgow, and like the kind of arts culture in the city, there's loads of stuff that you can check out. One of the particular ones that I really enjoyed for like audiovisual and music side of things was Cryptic. They're a production house that host events like Sonica, which takes place at the Tramway in Glasgow, and they do various sort of live performances of audiovisual media, like light shows, the kind of creation of like new technological instruments and sort of combining that with visual graphics or even performance, like music performance with instruments, all sorts of kind of wide range of different sort of audiovisual performances there. There are, I believe, like festivals internal with the uni as well, such as Gleam Festival. I think Iain might be able to sort of mention a little bit about that as well, but I believe Gleam Festival is a chance for some of the music students to sort of showcase what they've been working on within their courses. And yeah, there's lots of stuff on at the CCA Centre on Sucky Hall Street in Glasgow as well that do various sort of art exhibitions, music exhibitions, audiovisual stuff. And there's plenty of like venues, like nightlife venues in Glasgow as well, where if you're wanting something more relaxed, just to experience the kind of music culture of the city, there's places like the Old Hairdressers in the city centre. There's places such as the Howling Wolf, like these are kind of night bars that do music and concerts as well. So that's worth checking out. And the National Library of Scotland's Sound Archive as well is a place you can visit in Kelvin Hall, which does like a pretty sure it kind of hosts events from time to time if you keep an eye on their website. I was a student on the newly titled Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media course this year, and during one of the modules, I think it was sound shaping and design, where I basically made a soundscape for like a video game concept. But then we were reached out to by the National Library of Scotland Sound Archive, who then brought some Royal Conservatoire of Scotland students together, and I believe Edinburgh College of Art students as well, possibly. And we all came together to basically share our work, because within the projects we had all used archive audio from the archive itself, and we basically used that in different creative ways, and we were able to come together and network and share our sort of audiovisual projects there. And then with that came really useful sort of networking, and I was able to like get loads of contacts from different people, and that ended up me working with Edinburgh College of Art student on an animation short film, where I was designing some sound design for that animation short film as well. And then I was able to even secure some work at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as well. So the music culture extends all the way out to Edinburgh as well. So hopefully that kind of answers that question there. Sorry if it was very long-winded, but I kind of tried to get as many things in there as possible.
I was just going to say, I thought that was an excellent answer, and it also indicates an aspect of the opportunities here, which is that, you know, if you're interested and engaged, you will find opportunities. And what you'll find with your lecturers is that they'll be able to put you in touch with people, most likely, or point you in the right direction. But a lot of this depends on the student, right? And the amount of self-motivation and self-organization that you have. So, you know, some students are on our degree this past year were more quiet, maybe more interested in focusing explicitly on their coursework, and that's absolutely fine. That's a possibility if you if the notion of like jumping up on stage is not your vibe. But you know, by contrast, I have another student who was really keen to get involved in performing. They were coming from Canada and working in a kind of acoustic guitar singer-songwriter vein. You know, they were looking for opportunities to play, and so we pointed them out to, for instance, Celtic Connections, which is a large festival that happens in January, and it has a kind of platform for emerging artists that you can, you know, submit to, and then, you know, we aren't on the selecting program for, but as it happened, she was selected for that, got an opportunity to play. There's a venue in town called King Tut's, which is a very well-known venue throughout the UK, actually, but a small sort of 300 capacity place. They have a songwriter circle round that happens once a month. And again, just by kind of having an awareness of that and volunteering herself and putting her in the frame, she's played a gig at King Tut's as part of that songwriters round. She also organized her own gig on campus, which was something that we helped facilitate. And this was at the University Chapel, which is this beautiful historic chapel with amazing stained glass and beautiful reverb acoustics. And so she put on her own gig through there. I happened to be organizing a small music festival in June and had some of my students volunteer and get involved in that festival. That was, it was the second time that it ran. We ran it in 2024 and 2025. I can't guarantee that it will run in 2026 because we'll need to apply for funding to make it happen again. But it's a roundabout way of saying that people are always trying to make things happen, and often they work. And so as long as you have that attitude of getting stuck in, then there will be opportunities for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'll very, very briefly add to the end of that as you were saying, Callum, there are a number of opportunities kind of embedded within music in the university, but also in the wider school. So there's the Gleam Festival, there's Sound Thought, which is a postgraduate run collective that organise concerts and research events across the city and in the uni. And there's a festival called Future Creatives, which is all art subjects presenting work made by postgraduates. So as well as being really well connected with the kind of dizzying array of opportunities across the city, we also offer these kind of in-house opportunities to present work and get involved if people want to do that.
I think one other thing just to add as well is there are plenty of like societies that you can join through the uni. One of them is the Audio Electronics Society, which I discovered doing one of the modules in the course that I did. Was creating with technology, which involved like working with circuit boards and physical computing and coding for audiovisual like projections and stuff, and building like a sort of creative audiovisual installation. And I believe one of the leaders of the Audio Electronics Society did like a workshop in one of the studios at the uni, and then I was able to discover the Audio Electronics Society, and they host like a range of events based on that particular subject. So that's a really useful thing to mention about societies that you can join within the uni. GUST is another one, Glasgow University Student Television as well. I'm someone who has a background in like performance and acting as well as sound design. So I got in touch with them, and then we ended up doing like a sort of makeshift Traitors in a Day film, which is the Traitors is the TV show currently on BBC. It's like a murder mystery game show, and I was involved with like the kind of filming and production side of that, and also the performing side. So they do a lot of performance related events in like film and television and theatre. So if that's something you're interested in terms of sound, it's definitely worth checking them out as well.
Okay, yeah, that was a very comprehensive answer, but we have a few other questions, so let's try to get through those as well. Yes, we have a question from Alison, and she's asking, for the optional courses, if we wanted to enroll in a class from one of the other music programs, what's the process for getting instructor's approval, and when should we make this request? Well, my colleagues can correct me if it maybe works differently in their programs, but basically when enrollment opens, registration and enrollment opens, which will be sometime in August. I don't know the date from memory, but obviously you should either have received an email or you will get an email telling you when registration opens. And basically there are, when it comes to selecting your options courses, there are some courses that are already there on the list, so to speak, because they have been, so to speak, pre-approved or whatever, selected or whatever. So in those cases, you can enroll directly without asking for any approvals. There might be courses, like you might be, for example, looking at the course catalog and you might say, oh, here's this really interesting course in another subject area, which I would really like to take. And maybe it's not on the list because, we never had anyone taking it or something like that. So in that case, yeah, you would need to contact, I suppose, the course convenor of the course in the first instance to see if there's space, or to see if they could accommodate you. Yeah, and then you should have a chat with your program convenor as well. So this would be when registration opens. And I'm not sure if Matt or Iain would like to add something to that.
Well, maybe just to add that at least within the 3 postgraduate courses that we represent as staff, so the music industries degree, the creative sound design degree, and the musicology degree, it's quite common for students to maybe hop on to a course onto one of those other 2 degrees. So, I would have the students from musicology frequently hopping on to some of my courses. One of my students might hop on to one of the creative sound design courses that is on offer. They aren't all available to everyone, but we, historically, basically, we do try and make that happen. And the 3 of us all work in the same building, so we can, where something is possible, we'll try to allow that kind of compatibility between the different degrees.
Yeah, I mean that happened to me actually, which is useful that I can talk about that. So basically, I ended up doing the music analytics course as my option, which was out with one of the actual options where you don't have to contact the conveners, but I was able to sort of reach out to the convener of that course and then get enrolled onto it. And that was a good course in terms of like learning about music data and sort of collecting data sets on music and using data sets for machine learning in the music industry, creating like web pages and matrix for sound design data. So if people are interested in that kind of side of things, like information technology to do with music and sound design, then that course is there. I'm not sure if it's running again this year, but it was one of the newer courses, I think, when I took it.
Yes, actually, that's a great example of, taking the initiative. So actually, music curation and analytics is not, despite the title, is not offered by music. It's offered by information studies by a colleague who is a musicologist but happens to work there. And it's an honors course, but so it's normally open to a music honors student. But obviously, Callum took the initiative, and probably you saw it in the course catalog and thought this looks really cool. So I think it's worth, if you see something in the course catalog that catches your attention, it's worth doing a bit of research, rather than going by purely what is on the list, because my experience is that most people will try to find a way, most conveners, of course, sometimes might not be possible, but might be worth asking in any case. So we have a question from Jody, who is asking, what are the contact hours on the MSc Creative Sound Design, full-time and part-time?
So I can, speaking about full-time, the contact hours are between 6 and 8 hours per week. And the way that we structure the courses, that's basically a 2-hour session on each core module per week. But those teaching sessions take place in our audio lab or in our studios. And what we tend to do is have a couple of hours of taught kind of face-to-face time, and then another couple of hours of kind of breakout time where people can kind of stay in the labs and apply what we've been doing. So yeah, tends to be between 6 and 8 hours a week, but with that, basically with that again, as a kind of minimum for the time that people would be expected to kind of consolidate what they've just learned, and then a lot of and then kind of student-led time beyond that. I would say as well that we, as well as the kind of formal taught content on the course, there's a range of kind of additional activities that we provide. We have weekly listening sessions. We have a reading group. There's kind of other ways to kind of engage on top of the taught course time.
Okay, thanks, Ian. And we have a very similar question about the music industries. How many classes per week are there?
Yeah, sure. So, and maybe this is worth saying that for all 3 of the degrees, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but they all consist of 180 credits across the whole of a year. And the way that's divided up is that you would do 60 credits in semester 1 typically, 60 credits in semester 2, and then your dissertation or your significant project, depending on what degree you're on, in the summertime is also worth 60 credits. So for the music industries program, you would be doing in, say, your autumn semester, 60 credits divided into 3 courses. So 3 20-credit courses, and each of those 20-credit courses would be 2 hours of class time, kind of distributed throughout the week. So for in this autumn, for instance, you would be taking global music industries as one of your classes, music cities as another class, and then an elective. We would recommend taking popular music politics if you want to maintain that focus on popular music and music industries that characterizes the degree, but you also have an option to take a different outside option if you wish. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, and we have another question also about music industries from Shona. Would you say the music industries program is good for helping understand more about record labels and how they are set up and operated?
Yeah, I would actually. So the of course he would say that, but I would say in particular, that our global music industries course is very much designed to give you an overview of how 3 core components of the music industries work. So recording and record labels is one of those. The second is live music, and the third is publishing. And so you would not only gain an understanding about record labels and how they're set up and operated, but also how they relate to those other core revenue streams within the music industries. It's maybe also worth saying that John and I, your 2 teachers on the degree, both have practical experience of record labels. So John has, as an artist manager, engaged very closely with record labels on behalf of artists, and myself as no longer a professional artist, but back in when I was playing more actively in bands, I was signed to a record label, and we could be very happy to answer any questions that you have outside of class about dealing with record labels or running record labels. I run a small music imprint at the moment, and I think we have several micro labels operating within the music department. Ian is involved in one as well, and there are student run labels as well. So yes, in short.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just say as well, Shona said, was that an obvious question? No, I don't think it was an obvious question. I was kind of laughing at Matt's emphatic response, not the idea that it was self-evident.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Yeah, and I suppose I just wanted to add to that so next year I won't be teaching in the MMus musicology because I will be on research leave, but on past years I have also thought about record labels, although from a more historical perspective. So think record labels around 1900, okay, which is part of my research. So obviously, that kind of content probably won't be part of the MMus next year, but just to say that the same way as obviously John and Matt's expertise on music labels ties in with what Ian kind of does on a more practical level, or other colleagues do. But on the musicology side, there is also an aspect of that, which is to say that in our subject area there are like lots of kind of threads and themes that kind of cross over. So it might be worth like doing a bit of research on what like other courses are about, other modules, and see if maybe they also tie in with your interests. So we have another. Sorry.
Oh no. I was just going to say to add on to that. I convened the popular music history course, and we're also teaching about record labels in 1900. So both musicology and music industries share that. And you might think, why are they doing that? We're all living in the 21st century, but actually it's really helpful to know kind of what the core business model or the core way of thinking about releasing recorded music into the world was at various points in history, and then what that looks like right now. Because one of the common narratives that you might read in, say you're trying to learn everything you can about record labels purely from TikTokers who are telling you this is like the major disruption for 2025, and this is going to change everything and how record labels work. A lot of that is bluster, and it's, sure, there is a constant pace of technological change and disruption that happens in how labels operate or in how other aspects of music business operate, but there are also constants. And so teaching how record labels have worked over time allows you as a student to kind of navigate that, that discourse essentially of like, okay, what is genuinely new about how we run a record label in 2025? For instance, precarity, risk. These are not new elements to running a record label. They have always existed, right? And that's really worth bearing in mind. And I think it helps set you up, gives you a sort of long view for thinking about how you might run a label effectively in 2025. What are the core elements that are likely to remain core over the next 10 years, despite us having no idea what changes in technology will happen, because we know that they've sort of stayed constant over the last 50 or even 100 years, and then which ones might be genuinely new disruptions that we're going to have to learn to adapt to. And then have a lesson in thinking about how label owners or operators have adapted in the past to give us lessons as to like how we might adapt to disruption in the present. that was a long ramble. I kind of went into lecturer mode there, but you know, hopefully fleshes out your question a little bit.
Free sample.
Exactly.
Right.
Preview. Yeah, so we have a question from another question from Alison about numbers on the musicology program. Yeah, so this is a small program. I think all of our programs in music can be roughly described as quite small, you know, for the college. And I think the lowest number we've had in the MMus is 3, and the highest is 9. So, you know, between 3 and 9, under 10 in any case. And I suppose, yeah, that for the program, but as we were discussing earlier, because other students in music can take individual courses in other programs, some of the classes might actually have more than the musicology cohort, if that makes sense, you know, but in any case, the numbers will be, you know, fairly small, you know, under 10 or like maybe under 12 or, you know, quite small. And we have another question, not sure who this is from, but so it's about internship, so links with industry and internship and project opportunities, industry placements, both for music industries and sound design.
So yeah, there is like a fair amount of kind of opportunities available. Like I think when you become a student, you get access to the Student Opportunities Hub, which is a webpage where they list loads of internships for pretty much any course, and you can filter it down to the particular kind of internship that you want. And there's like a solid kind of application system that you go through to apply to those. And they kind of refresh and come through like throughout the whole course of the year, at least in my experience. And the uni hosts like job fairs quite frequently as well, whether that be down at Kelvin Hall or in the kind of Queen Margaret University Union or the Glasgow University Union. They host job fairs where people come from different companies, like such as, I think there was one where there was people from the BBC, there was people from like STV, various other places like video game companies, media companies, stuff like that. And you can basically speak to representatives of those companies, have a chat with them, you know, ask them what it's like to work in their industry. How can you apply yourself? What should I be putting on my CV? What should I be sort of putting into my portfolio to be able to network and showcase like my ability and get myself out there? I believe the uni also hosted an event called Creative Days a wee while back. I think that was the name of it. And there was like a range of people that came and done like workshops and talks about their experience in the industry. So I think like directors of certain like BBC shows and stuff came and spoke about like their role in the industry. I'm trying to pick out actual examples from it, but I can't really think of any exact at the minute. But there was basically a wide range of like industry professionals that would come and give a talk in front of lots of people about their sort of role they play in their industry. So yeah, there's lots of kind of opportunities there.
Yeah, I would just say to that as well, I think certainly in the case of creative sound design, but I think Matt was talking about this as well, and also with musicology, the links between the university, between music in the university and the kind of arts and cultural organisations in Glasgow and Scotland are excellent, I would say. And part of that is because a lot of the staff have been or are currently kind of involved in a lot of those organisations. So whether that's presenting work at festivals or releasing work on labels or doing research for instrument building companies or working in broadcasting, there are really good kind of live connections with lots of different strands of kind of music and arts industry. For creative sound design, we kind of regularly have arts organisations or cultural organisations coming to talk to students as part of our course offer. And we often have guest artists performing at our events and speaking to students in that sense. We also run some coursework in connection to cultural organisations. Callum, you were talking about students working with the National Library and using sound from the archive to create new work. That's just kind of one example of not quite an internship opportunity, but a kind of industry context like assignment opportunity, so that you can get a feel for not just learning what you're learning about, but applying it in a kind of professional setting.
Yeah, and maybe just speak from the music industry's degree perspective. So it's what's worth saying is that it's, placements are not part of your assessed coursework on the degree, but what we try and do instead is we bring industry speakers to campus. We send students out to events like the Resonate conference, which is the main music industry conference in Glasgow, annually takes place in November. Then we have graduates from our degree who work in local music businesses in and around Scotland. So in terms of record labels, that would include Last Night from Glasgow, which I think at this stage is the largest record label probably operating in Scotland. Soma Recordings is an electronic dance music record label. From a live perspective, we have graduates working at 432 Presents and PCL Promotions. And then from a trade body perspective, we have graduates working at the Scottish Music Industry Association. So that sometimes translates into placement opportunities. For instance, via the Careers Hub that Callum was mentioning earlier, there was a internship that was advertised this year for the Scottish Music Industry Association, and this would be a paid internship. So it's, placements of that sort are not guaranteed, but they're competitive, but they're paid often. And so it's really trying to translate your studies into real work perspectives, I guess we're trying to focus on with the degree. So hopefully that helps a bit.
So I think we can probably take a couple more questions. If you have like any last minute questions that you can pop into the chat. And while we wait for maybe people to write down their questions, I thought that this topic about internships and placements ties in quite nicely with another thing that viewers might be asking about, which is the career destination. So like what have graduates in each of these three programs kind of gone on to, and in some cases maybe those kind of initial contacts with the professional world might kind of have resulted in future job opportunities. And yeah, so just wanted to say, speaking for the MMus, I mean, we've had a few students going on to PhD studies, so I think that's true for all three programs. Like I think each of these programs prepares you for PhD study either here or like somewhere else at a different institution. We've also had in the MMus, we've had people going on to work for the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, and other kind of arts, culture and arts organizations. We've had people, perhaps this is quite unique to music, but I think perhaps music is a subject where sometimes people decide to do a master's kind of a bit later in life, and perhaps they're already musicians or music teachers, so they take the master's part-time, and this can perhaps, I don't know, add like some extra kind of feathers to their bow, perhaps. So it can maybe I don't know, allow them to offer kind of, I don't know, different kinds of things in their kind of portfolio. I don't know, things like workshop facilitating and so on, or simply, knowing a bit more about music. But I'm also going to let my colleagues speak about their own programs.
Yeah, well, in addition to the organizations that I just mentioned in answering the previous question that graduates have been to locally within Scotland, so a range of concert promoters, record labels, trade associations. We've also had graduates work at different sorts of media companies. So Sony Music Journey, BBC Studios, Channel 4. As Eva was saying, a number of our students have gone on to study at PhD level and now hold lecturing posts at both the Glasgow Uni and the University of West of Scotland in not just music, but also areas like cultural policy. And then we have a lot of students who are coming on who already have a sort of portfolio career where they are either self-employed or freelance artists, educators, music entrepreneurs. I've got a PhD student joining me just in September, who's the managing editor of a significant music magazine in the United States. But they want to get a PhD just exactly as Eva described, to kind of add breadth to their skill set, and they want to work more in cultural policy. So they'll be doing, working as a journalist alongside doing postgraduate level research. So, and that's not uncommon, I guess, within our department.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. I think a kind of similar story to tell, really, with the Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media MSc. Some of our students go on to work in broadcast media, so doing kind of sound design or audio-based work in the BBC, or in film, in immersive media contexts. Some of them go on to or continue to develop careers as creative practitioners, so kind of musician, artist, performer, composer type people, presenting at arts festivals, releasing work, making installations, this kind of thing. People who have done the course sometimes go on to work in the creative industries more broadly, so maybe in curatorial roles or marketing roles or production or administration roles. And often these things, often in kind of arts careers, you can have a kind of portfolio career situation where people are doing kind of any number of these things at the same time, and kind of working out which one to focus on. Some of our students go into further study and use the kind of training they get on the programme, but also the kind of portfolio dissertation element as a kind of stepping stone to move into doctoral study at Glasgow or elsewhere. I think at the moment we've got 3, maybe 4 current PhDs who came straight from the creative sound, what was the sound design and audiovisual media, what's now creative sound design, and straight into PhD study. More joining in October, I think. And then I suppose it's fair to say some people don't end up doing any of that, and kind of move in a different direction completely, but have developed kind of really useful transferable skills on the programme: collaborative working, writing and communications, digital media skills, lots of things that they can kind of take to make the next career move that they want to make. So yeah, a wide range of career pathways, in kind of media, arts, scholarship, and elsewhere.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo what Ian's saying, like, one of the reasons I kind of chose the program was to, well, I was like originally an actor, performer, and someone whose sound design was just my hobby. So I was looking to like solidify some technical skills, find the discipline, be challenged by projects, and begin building a portfolio to sort of showcase that for a career, and just to kind of open my creative options. And again, networking is so important, I think, with this course, in the sense that it's just a really good opportunity to meet people in the industry, really understand your industry, and sort of find the motivation and find what part of the sound design industry that you want to follow. Like, one of the modules was audiovisual composition, which involved like generating sort of real-time graphics that can react to audio, so reactive audio visuals basically. And I had like a piece of music paired with some graphics that I generated using software called Max MSP. And then that was showcased at a festival called Synthesis by the Glasgow School of Art, I think set that up. And that was in the East End of Glasgow, and that was a sort of exhibition of loads of audiovisual installations. So yeah, there's so many different routes, whether it's field recording, creating with technology, sound shaping and design, audiovisual composition. Like, there's loads of different avenues that you can go down. Like, one of the projects, I was all the way down in Manchester at one of the old train lines down there, and there was like an event of like all these old steam trains that basically were put out for the day, and I took a field recorder and basically recorded all these old steam trains, and then made like a field recording composition of the evolution of trains from steam to diesel to the electric. And that's an avenue you can go down, like field recording and documenting sound and creating like sonic documentaries. So there's loads of different avenues, and I think it's a really great course if you want to be challenged with different kind of mediums within sound design.
Okay, thanks very much. And I see we don't have any more questions. But anyway, if you have more questions, you can contact admissions for anything to do with like the more administrative side of things, like mode of study and enrollment and so on. For more academic questions, then it would be like one of us as course convenors. But so thanks to my fellow panelists, and thanks to those who have been listening to us. And we hope to see all of you next year in Glasgow. Bye.